75,000 years ago, the human story almost ended. Not with a war, not with a disease, but with a single explosion so powerful it changed the climate of the entire planet. The sky turned dark, the world grew cold, food disappeared, and the total number of humans left alive may have been small enough to fit inside a school bus. You are here today because those few people didn't give up. Have you ever wondered if humanity has always been on a steady path to world domination? It feels like it, right? We're everywhere, building skyscrapers, sending probes to Mars. But what if I told you that our story almost had a very different and much, much shorter ending? What if I told you that at one point, our ancestors were so close to extinction that the entire future of humanity could have fit inside a small school bus? It sounds like a sci-fi movie plot, but this is our real history. Let's rewind the clock. Not just a few hundred years or even a few thousand. We're going way back, about 75,000 years ago. The world was a different place, a much wilder and more dangerous one. Our ancestors, Homo sapiens, were just one of several human-like species roaming the planet. We weren't the top of the food chain just yet. We were still figuring things out, learning to survive in a world filled with massive predators and unpredictable climates. And then something happened. Something catastrophic. Imagine a volcano, but not just any volcano. We're talking about a supervolcano. In what is now Sumatra, Indonesia, a mountain called Toba erupted with a force that is almost impossible for us to comprehend today. It was one of the largest volcanic eruptions in the last 2.5 million years. Think Mount Vesuvius that buried Pompeii, and then multiply that force by thousands. The Toba super-eruption was an extinction-level event. It blasted an insane amount of ash and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. How much? Enough to blanket the entire globe. This wasn't just a local disaster, it was a planetary crisis. The sun was dimmed, maybe for years. Global temperatures plummeted, triggering what scientists call a volcanic winter. Picture a world plunged into a sudden, harsh ice age. Summers disappeared, plants withered and died, the animals that depended on those plants starved, and the predators that depended on those animals followed suit. The entire food chain from the bottom up was collapsing. And where were our ancestors in all of this? Scattered across Africa and parts of Asia, trying to survive. But how do you survive when the sky is dark with ash, the air is choked with toxic fumes, and the world around you is freezing and starving? The simple answer is, most of them didn't. This is where the Toba catastrophe theory comes in. It suggests that this single event pushed our species to the absolute brink. Genetic evidence backs this up in a fascinating way. If you look at the DNA of people all around the world today, we are remarkably similar. Compared to other primate species, like chimpanzees, our genetic diversity is incredibly low. Why? Well, one leading explanation is a population bottleneck. Imagine a bottle full of diverse marbles. If you tip it over and only a few marbles trickle out, the new population you build from those few marbles will be much less diverse than the original bottle. That's what scientists think happened to us. The Toba eruption may have been the event that tipped the bottle. According to this theory, the global human population crashed. Some estimates suggest it dropped to as low as a few thousand individuals. Think about that. The entire population of our species, the ancestors of all 8 billion of us today, might have been smaller than the number of people in your local neighborhood. Maybe only 1,000 to 10,000 breeding pairs left scattered in isolated pockets of refuge, probably in Africa, or the climate impact might have been slightly less severe. For years, maybe even centuries, humanity was on the endangered species list. One bad hunting season, one new disease, one more drought, and poof, we could have gone. just another failed experiment in evolution, our fossils to be discovered by some other intelligent species millions of years in the future. So, how did we survive? How did this tiny, fragile group of humans pull through when so many other species were wiped out? This is the most incredible part of the story. It wasn't just luck, it was our ingenuity. It was our ability to adapt, to innovate, and most importantly, to cooperate. Facing the ultimate challenge, our ancestors got smarter. Archaeological evidence from this period shows a burst of creativity and technological advancement. We see the development of more sophisticated tools, not just basic hand axes, but smaller, more complex projectile points and blades. This meant they could hunt more effectively and from a safer distance. They learned to process food in new ways, like grinding ochre and plant matter, getting more nutrition out of scarce resources. They expanded their diet, relying heavily on coastal resources like shellfish, which were less affected by the volcanic winter than land animals. They became masters of coastal living. But perhaps the most important survival tool wasn't made of stone. It was social. This crisis likely forced our ancestors into tighter, more cooperative social networks. They had to share information, where to find food, how to avoid new dangers, which plants were safe to eat. They had to share resources. The groups that worked together, that built strong social bonds, were the ones that survived. Language, art, and symbolic thought, all the things we consider uniquely human, may have been forged and refined in this desperate fight for survival. This is when we truly became us. These small, scattered groups of survivors held on. Generation after generation, they endured the cold, dark world. And slowly, ever so slowly, the planet began to heal. The volcanic ash settled, the sun returned, and the climate started to stabilize. And as the world recovered, so did we. From those few thousand survivors, humanity began its second act. Armed with new technologies, stronger social bonds, and the hard-won wisdom of survival, our ancestors began to expand once again. This time, they were unstoppable. This new, more resilient version of humanity spread out of Africa and across the entire globe with unprecedented speed. They were better hunters, better communicators, and better collaborators. They could adapt to any environment, from frozen tundras to dense jungles to remote islands. This expansion, known as the out-of-Africa migration, led our ancestors to every corner of the planet, eventually making us the last human species standing. Neanderthals, Denisovans, they all disappeared, while we, the descendants of the Toba survivors, thrived. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by a challenge, remember the story of our ancestors. Remember that our very existence is a testament to surviving the impossible. We are all descendants of a handful of people who stared extinction in the face and refused to give up. They didn't just survive, they used the crisis to become stronger, smarter, and more connected. It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, human resilience and innovation can light the way forward. Our entire history could have been a footnote in the planet's story, but instead, we're here to tell it.